They say marriage is a journey, but mine began with a nightmare. 2 months in, I discovered my husband wasn't just a man with secrets, he was a man whose mind could betray him at any moment. And the worst part? Everyone knew, except me. Let me tell you how I found out, in the most humiliating way possible. My marriage was arranged long before I met him, a decision sealed by the elders and the weight of tradition. I was told that in our community, love would blossom in time. It was the duty of our families to unite us before our years weighed too heavily upon us. I trusted the wisdom of my parents and the village, even though a small, persistent voice within me wondered what fate awaited. On the day of the ceremony, in a vibrant compound festooned with colorful cloths and the sound of ululation, I stepped forward with trepidation and hope, unaware that my new life would soon reveal secrets beyond my imagining. The early days of marriage were a blend of quiet routines and ceremonial obligations. I had never seen him outside the brief moments of the ceremony, a man who spoke little, with eyes that often flickered with an unreadable emotion. We did not share a common space immediately. Instead, we honored the customs of our people by living in separate quarters until the families decided it was time to merge our lives fully. I busied myself with domestic tasks and the gentle rhythms of community life, finding solace in the familiar patterns of tradition. But beneath the calm, a storm was silently gathering. 2 months into our marriage, on a radiant morning at the local market, the ordinary transformed into the extraordinary. I was guiding our basket through the bustling maze of stalls where the air was thick with the scent of spices and roasted maize. Amid the familiar shouts of vendors and the rustle of vibrant fabrics, my husband, whom I had rarely seen outside formal settings, unexpectedly handed me the bag containing our purchases. His eyes held a strange urgency as if urging me to hold on tightly, but nothing in that moment could have prepared me for what came next. In the middle of the crowded market, as if possessed by a sudden impulse, he began to disrobe. First his shirt fell carelessly to the ground, then his trousers, until he was left in nothing but his undergarments. A gasp rippled through the crowd. I stood rooted to the spot, my heart pounding so loudly I feared it might shatter the silence of that moment. Unable to contain my shock, I cried out, "Look, my husband is undressing and running." The utter absurdity of his act left the market in chaos, with people pointing and whispering while some laughed nervously at the surreal scene. As pandemonium reigned, he bolted away through the labyrinthine alleys of the market. I dashed after him, my steps frantic and my mind a maelstrom of confusion. In the crowd, traders and passers-by could only watch as I pursued a man who had become both a stranger and the subject of an unfolding spectacle. Every footstep echoed my mounting panic. Here was the man I was supposed to love, now reduced to a frantic fugitive, leaving behind nothing but shattered expectations. The scene was both absurd and terrifying, as if a rift had torn through the fabric of the life I thought I knew. Finally, a group of local youths managed to corner him near the edge of the market. Panting and disoriented, he slumped against the wall, his eyes wild and unseeing. I reached him, trembling with a mix of relief and terror, as the murmurs of the onlookers faded into an eerie silence. I could barely recognize the man before me, a man who now seemed more a stranger than the one promised by my family's arrangements. The shame and humiliation of being the wife of a man so publicly unhinged began to etch deep lines of worry across my heart. In the days that followed, the incident at the market became the subject of hushed gossip and pointed glances. The very air in our community seemed to change, heavy with the weight of scandal. I retreated into the confines of our modest home, each day plagued by memories of that surreal moment. But the true shock was yet to come. One evening, desperate for an explanation, I reached out to his mother. With an unsettling calm, she asked, "Has he been taking his medicine?" My confusion deepened as I pressed, "What medicine?" Her voice remained measured as she instructed, "Look in his bag, you'll find 2 small boxes. Use them as I told you." The revelation struck me like a blow. this was not the first time his condition had surfaced, and I was now thrust into a role I never asked for. With trembling fingers, I opened his bag and discovered the 2 boxes of medicine, neatly wrapped in local cloth. I recalled never having seen him take anything of the sort before, and my mind raced with questions. That night, I sat vigil by his bedside as he finally managed to swallow the prescribed tablets. His eyes, once clear and distant, slowly began to regain a semblance of calm. In a halting voice, he confessed, "I am ill. I suffer from a condition I've battled silently for years. I forgot my medicine these last 2 days, and it's taken its toll on me." His admission was both heartbreaking and infuriating, a reminder that I had been married to a man burdened by invisible demons, handed to me by families who deemed it acceptable. The following days were marked by a fragile peace. Yet, beneath the surface, an undercurrent of fear and uncertainty flowed through every moment of our shared life. My body trembled whenever I recalled his frantic sprint through the market, and I found myself constantly questioning the decisions of my elders. How had they not revealed this crucial detail of his health? Each whisper from a neighbor and every sideways glance in the market compounded my sense of betrayal. I felt isolated, trapped by a union that had been arranged more by duty than by genuine affection. In the stillness of the night, I often lay awake, wrestling with a torrent of emotions, sorrow, anger, and an aching loneliness. One humid afternoon, as the harmattan winds began to stir, I resolved to seek clarity. I ventured to the home of an elder midwife, a wise woman known for her insights into both physical and spiritual ailments. In her shadowed hut adorned with dried herbs and ancestral relics, I recounted my ordeal in halting whispers. She listened with a grave expression before murmuring, "Sometimes the spirits choose the path of suffering to teach us strength. Your husband's ailment is not merely of the body but of a deeper, restless mind." Her words, though cryptic, offered little comfort. Instead, they deepened the mystery of the man who had become my husband, leaving me to wonder if fate had tethered us together in more ways than one. In the weeks that followed, the tension between us grew into an intricate dance of hope and despair. During the day, my husband would perform his duties with a measured reserve, his moments of lucidity interspersed with episodes of inexplicable behavior. At night, as the lamplight cast dancing shadows on our walls, he would sometimes murmur apologies in a broken tone, his eyes haunted by memories I could not fathom. I began to see glimpses of the man he once pretended to be, a gentle soul with a quiet smile, but those moments were fleeting and quickly swallowed by his inner turmoil. The dichotomy of his nature left me both compassionate and resentful, caught between the duty of marriage and the yearning for a love that felt genuine. The community's whispers grew louder, and with each murmur, the pressure on my fragile heart mounted. I started attending community gatherings less frequently, retreating into the solitude of our compound. The vibrant festivals and communal dances that once brought joy now served as painful reminders of my isolation. In the quiet mornings, I would walk along a dusty path by the river, the gentle sound of water over stones a stark contrast to the tumult inside me. There, I wrestled with the question that tormented me: how could I reconcile the man I married with the unpredictable figure now burdened by a mysterious affliction? My prayers grew more desperate, and the lines between destiny and misfortune blurred. One day, in a rare moment of shared vulnerability, my husband invited me to sit with him under the ancient baobab tree that had witnessed countless stories in our village. Beneath its sprawling branches, he spoke softly about his childhood, a tale of loss, unspoken dreams, and a relentless struggle against forces he claimed were both natural and otherworldly. "I was never the same after the accident," he confessed, his voice barely audible over the rustling leaves. "They say my mind was touched by something beyond our world, something that makes it hard for me to stay whole." As he recounted his tale, I felt the weight of years of hidden pain and secrets, realizing that his condition was not born solely of neglect but of a deeper, lingering curse that had haunted him long before our union. That revelation shook me to my core. With every word, The man I thought I knew became increasingly enigmatic, a mosaic of brilliance, suffering, and unpredictable moments. My anger and disappointment began to mingle with sympathy as I realized that his struggle was not a personal failing but a lifelong battle with forces unseen. Yet, the question of responsibility still haunted me. Had my family, in their haste and adherence to tradition, sacrificed my happiness on the altar of duty? I wandered through the field outside our home, the golden hues of dusk mingling with my turbulent thoughts, wondering if love could ever triumph over such a shadowed past. As time marched on, I learned to navigate our fragile existence with cautious optimism. I discovered small moments of joy, a shared laugh over a simple meal, the tender way he would sometimes hold my hand when the world around us seemed less harsh. Slowly, I began to see that our union, though unconventional and fraught with difficulties, might yet harbor the seeds of healing. In our quiet moments, I searched his eyes for forgiveness and understanding, and in the subtle shifts of his behavior, I found hints of the man he could be. The journey was neither linear nor free of pain, but it was ours to traverse together, against a backdrop of age-old customs and modern dilemmas. Now, as I pen these words by the light of a flickering candle, I stand at a crossroads of hope and despair. I am left to wonder whether the life I envisioned, a life defined by clear love and certainty, could ever coexist with the tangled reality of a man haunted by invisible demons. I remain caught between duty and desire, tradition and the yearning for a love that transcends imperfections. With each passing day, I strive to forge a future where understanding replaces judgment and compassion mends the fractures of our past. In the end, I have come to accept that our story is not defined by a single moment of madness in the market, but by the countless quiet struggles and triumphs that shape our very souls.